Have you ever been in a conversation with your parents that goes something like this? बेटा ये डिज़ाइन विज़ाइन छोड़ दो, अपनी पढ़ाई पे ध्यान दो और इंजीनियरिंग करो. The reality is that fields like UX design are relatively new and have only exploded since the late 2000s. This means that the demand for UI UX designers and developers is at an all-time high. Smartphones have taken over, and with affordable smartphones and even more affordable internet, the world we live in is just not the same as the one that they grew up in. So, what does it take to become a UX designer? What qualities do you need to have? And of course, the biggest question, क्या design में scope है? In this video, Jenil and I answer all of these questions, clear some misconceptions that beginners and maybe even parents might have, and a lot more. So let's get into it.
So, I wanted to just think about, as I think about, our years of experience in this field, yours and mine's, I think collectively it might even cross or 15 years or even maybe approach close to more than that.
Close to 20.
Yeah, close to 20. And I was just thinking about, like, what are some of the things that we have realized that if you could go back in time and I could tell the Janeel from 10 years ago and you could tell the Abhinav from 10 years ago.
What's the biggest one for you? What do you think that is?
I think the biggest one for me is I've always had this perspective of design as like, like you gotta like be really good at like painting and like, so I'll tell you a story. Like growing up, I grew up in Ahmedabad and we used to go to this like painting classes with a bunch of other kids in our society. Our teacher was, we called her Hemali auntie, we just call her auntie. And then this is like OG freelancing, man. Like she was like, she was like a housewife. And then on the side in her like veranda or something like that, she would like have all these kids come in.
The OG solo creator / cohort based course educator.
Yeah. So like she would like teach all of us and we would have all these like painting and stuff. And the brush, we used to call it in Gujarati peachy. I don't know what it's called in Hindi, but like that's what we would call it. So like we would mess around with it. We would most of the time just throw paint on each other. Then and every day you would take this painting with you to show to your parents that you're making some progress. And obviously my paintings are nothing to look at. I mean, some landscape ones I did, they're kind of, my parents have kept it. And I look at it like, what kind of hideous artifact have I created? So but my parents are like, no, it's a good sign. So, but then there were other kids with me that from a young age could take photos of their niece, nephew, and sketch with pencil an exact replica. And I was like, I cannot sketch faces, man. I'm not good at it. Maybe I can try, but I don't know. I'm just not good at it. So then I was like, maybe to be a good designer, you have to be born where you kind of draw cartoons, you draw all these things. But having worked in the design field, I realized that you may not be the best like sketcher or even the visual designer, but that does not mean that you cannot create amazing or design amazing products. So that was a big thing I had to overcome. Like in design field, you work with a team. So if you're not the best sketcher, visual designer and stuff, you can still partner with people and bring that vision to life.
Yeah, there's definitely a correlation between the creative type, the creative kid versus, those people do end up looking for and seeking out and they do get into design. But yeah, the opposite is also true where there's a lot of people who disqualify themselves because they're like, I am not a creative type. But the thing that I realized was just the creative process, just being okay with, starting on a blank page, going through a series of steps. Sometimes it doesn't go well, sometimes it does. But in the end, you have something. So it definitely helps to be creative. But the blocker that people think that I am not creative, like that is a big one. And what I would say to people who think that is a lot of design today is not purely about visual design. It's about problem solving. We are creating these products that are used by, in cases, millions of people. And what that requires is somebody who kind of is able to see the big picture. This is the business. These are the users. This is the product. This is how it all connects. This is how flows happen and everything. But it does require creativity, which is starting from like a blank page and being like, okay, let's imagine, let's play this out. But yeah.
And it's kind of like very similar to when I think about, all the way from 8th standard to 12th standard, how it was. It was pretty similar, even though like I'm speaking from Gujarat perspective, it's probably similar from you in Bangalore and stuff. There's like this whole emphasis, like you gotta prepare for AI, Triple E, and IIT, and back then the indicator was that. I mean, that's the way I felt. I'm not saying that was the indicator, but that's the way I felt. Like the whole rat race was like qualify for IITs and stuff. And somehow I felt that if I was not good at like solving the HC Verma problems and stuff, then I'm probably not going to make it. So I didn't even get a chance like where I could express my creativity and think whether could be a future, because the biggest thing like back then, my parents were like, I was like, I want to be an architect. That's really what I wanted to be. So in my building in the 5th story, we had this famous architect, and he was I always had this, like, saw him as this cool uncle who had this big beard and he would travel a lot. He would be like laughing all the time and had fun glasses, and his name was Kirti, so I would call him Kirti uncle. And he would like show me, like, the replica they build of a big building before they actually build it. So he would show me those ones and I would be excited. Models, yeah. And I really wanted to be an architect, honestly, growing up. And my parents were like, no, you need to be like an engineer or like a doctor, because they're like, artists kind of go hungry. Like they don't make that much money, or an architect, you're not going to make that much money. So they were not really happy about it, to be honest, looking back. But what would you say, like, now? I feel like compensation wise now, designers make pretty good money if you think in career wise. Right?
Absolutely, dude. I get it, bro. I think personally for me as well, for a couple of years when I was younger, architect was like the career choice. When uncles and aunties would ask me, what do you want to be? I would be like architect, although I didn't really know. And there was that mentality that, hey, you're creative, but you should do architecture because I've heard architects make money. Versus if you're I guess the common, when people thought of design, they usually thought about fashion design and interior design, and not even graphic design so much, at least in my family. So that was interesting. That was definitely interesting. Today, of course, the scene is very different, right? I think when we talk about designers today, of course, all these other fields still exist and they're doing really well. Fashion, graphic, whatever it might be. But personally, product design was the thing that really got me. Designing apps, so UI, UX, what else people call it. Mostly because it had tech attached to it, which meant that although I might not be the best at it, it was an industry that was growing. And I think in your career, there's big advantages in joining industries where you have some kind of inherent advantage, right? It's like, for example, for me, it was tech. I understood tech, got into it. It was an industry that was kind of growing. Like, imagine just growing up as the iPhone is getting better. You have updates coming out and it's just getting better and better. And, a lot of people were dismissing it. Why? Because they've been in the industry for 20, 30 years. They don't think that this small screen can in any way be better than, the internet, in the same way that a lot of people don't even like the internet. But I think what's very interesting is this generation of people, right? The people who are going to become designers in this decade, previous decade, this decade, that generation of designers is growing up with mature products. Like, imagine there are people out there, where YouTube is a reality of their life, for example, right?
From day one,
they've never known a life pre-YouTube, never known a life pre-social media. Like, we can see the difference. But imagine this, for us, it was like cars, right? We didn't know a time before cars. Like, cars have always been around. TV has always been around. For a lot of people, it's like that with with technology.
Oh my God.
And they're growing up with these mature products, right? Really well designed, rich communication, video, interactive, real time, social media. You've got deliveries, you've got food, you've got transport. And they've kind of taken for granted that, tech has always been around. And for those people, they have a very unique perspective on tech today that I feel like even we might not have. Or, of course, older and older generations would not. And the interesting thing is, as the workforce shifts, as more people retire and new people enter the workforce, more products are going to be built for us. So very big advantage that kind of our generation has, just growing up with these products, at the same time that these products are taking off.
and expecting good design by default. Like, for example, just to like geek out on design right now. So in this recording tool that we're using, we both are filming in DSLR, using our DSLR, like, high quality cameras. But then
Yeah.
because of internet, like your picture that I'm seeing is not DSLR quality, but guess what? Right above your screen in my interface, it says actual recording in higher quality. So it's like such an amazing design thing, right? Hey, you know what? You're seeing his video. Don't freak
Yeah.
out. Don't worry. He is using a DSLR, but it's just that because of the internet, we're not showing you his highest resolution, but it's being recorded in that quality. It's funny, like, when I think about like the counseling, like, we always had those counseling sessions where like uncles would come and lecture me, my parents would lecture me. And okay, so it's like growing up, you always wanted to be a cricketer, man. Like everywhere around me, people were like cricket, and it was like exciting. Like, you're like, oh man, I'll, like this is cool, man. It's fun. It was like away from all this, like going to like solving all these gravitational questions and stuff. What is the mass of this vehicle, bro? Like, I don't give a shit about like what is the mass of this like vehicle, man, or like calculate how much time it takes for like Jasmee's vehicle to stop before it crashes into like Balbir's vehicle. I'm like, bro, like I don't care like, like what's going on.
Yeah.
So my mom was very like honest and realistic. She's like, listen, you need to pursue a career which can provide for you, which can feed you. Like, like we cannot support you all the time. We want you to be self-sufficient, which every parent anywhere want. So that's why she was like, the chances of you becoming a good cricketer, even forget breaking into the Indian team, national team, but just like, she's like, you're not going to make good money. You're going to waste your life. So no matter what your desire, what you want to do career-wise, there's all this money component to it. And it's only now that product design pays you really well. Where if there was like a barrier, we were thinking like, प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन में जाना है नहीं जाना है पैसे का क्या होगा इसमें करियर तो हो जाएगा ना I think that's not an issue anymore. I feel like
what a lot of people also might not realize is being a product designer is actually much closer to being an engineer than it is to being in other types of design, like maybe a graphic designer or interior designer, right? And that also reflects in salaries, right? Everybody knows that engineers make a lot of money, doctors make a lot of money. Let's remove doctors from the conversation though. Yes. Everyone knows engineers make a lot of money. Parents do have this kind of craze that, we do want you to be an engineer. And of course, valid reasons for that. We all know. But what's yet to happen, and I think we're quite close, is the perception of product design as another field. Because a lot of big colleges today, engineering colleges, have UI UX design. Like they have BDes, they have design degrees where they're teaching product design. And that's kind of increasing. So how do you think about that comparison? Engineers, product designers, because both are very competitive fields, of course.
I'll just tell you a story, man. I mean, being a Guju, man, a lot of these things are like profit and loss mentality. Like from a very young age, you're just taught like, okay, what is the munafa here and stuff. So I was having a conversation with one of my friends recently that I fondly call Baba. We went to engineering together. And, I was just telling him. So we were having, and me and Baba were just chilling. We're eating that Haldiram's aloo bhujia. And we were just like, as usual, talking about life and chilling.
Aloo bhujia and thumbs up.
Yeah. And then a bunch of other things as well. But but anyway, so I was telling him that, hey, there's this designer that I know that recently was just a senior product designer, okay? And then within a span of less than a year, got promoted from a senior product designer to like director of design. So, I mean, think about it. Like not only is their salary growing exponentially, but even like to jump from just like a senior designer to, to become a manager, and then quickly jump from manager to also like becoming a director. So I was telling that example to him. You know what he commented? He's like, bro, I work at a FANG. And for every, like designer that I work with, there's like 100 plus engineers. So if there's like one designer, if you look at the ratio, there's 100 other like engineers. So think about it this way, like within this team of designers, this designer probably had to compete with like 10, 20, 30 max, like maybe in 50 designers at that level. But then if an engineer, just to go from like design, like engineer to like senior engineer, you have to compete with 100 plus, sometimes even 200 engineers just to go to one level above. You want to go one more level, again the size increases. So he was just saying that being an engineer like maybe pays you really well in the get-go, but then to climb up there's so much competition. And the design being so new, he was saying that you have way better chances of quickly growing up the going up the career ladder. And obviously I would say now designers almost make close enough to what engineers make, if not more in some cases.
So this is the answer then to UI UX design ka scope kya hai bhaiya, bataiye. Right, the common question, or even parents ask this actually, what's the scope? And the interesting way, I think that's a great story, by the way, that goes to show that the scope is very, very good, in fact, right? Competitive, but much more progression, or let's just say room for progression. Another way I think about it is one of the reasons why engineers make so much money is this device right here, right? I was looking up the stats, and the latest stats say that average screen time in India right now is around 5 hours daily.
Oh my God.
Right? Daily 5 hours. Now, imagine you were going to a mall, right? This is just an analogy I'm drawing. Imagine you were going to a mall for 5 hours a day. You would need things to do at the mall, right?
Yeah.
The property rates of the malls would go up, right? Developers who build shops, interior design, it would all go up, because this is like, imagine there is a mall where people are going for 5 hours every single day and spending time deeply throughout the day.
Yeah.
And dude, that's what this is. Like, this has changed the game more than desktop or anything else, because now that this is literally the primary computing device in the world, people are spending all this time. They need something to do with that time. And right, so we are designing these experiences, we are designing these products. Engineers, they're building it out. We've got product managers, we are now suddenly at this elevated level. And of course, there's also a dark side to it, right? Which is somehow over the last couple of years, a lot of that time has been eaten up by entertainment, right? It's social media today. It's TikTok, YouTube, just kind of cannibalizing. But, my view on that is just the internet is here to stay. Like, we are going to develop the fact that we're spending 5 hours, and that is probably likely to increase. We're going to figure out, hey, this is unhealthy. This is junk food. And there'll be a good chunk of people who will say, okay, I am going to do this. There are clear advantages for my career, for my personal life. However, I can't spend all of this time on junk food, on entertainment. And they're going to want productive ways of spending that time, right? And I think that is the real scope of UI UX design, which is people are spending all of this time on these online products. We're spending these large chunks of time, and we're going to need new ways of connecting with people. We're going to need new ways of organizing. We're going to need new ways of collaborating with each other, going towards common goals, forming groups, meeting people, and in general, just using technology to achieve our goals. So as a designer, engineer, product manager, we literally get a say in that. Right? As a user, you might not have so much of a say in what these platforms do, and how exactly they take your time. But as a designer, we're going to be building those next generation products that help people achieve this. Like, internet is not going away. So, that's the scope of UI UX design. Enormous, tremendous.
Dude, I couldn't stop laughing. So when you're like, imagine a mall where people go and spend 5 hours. So I have a friend called Anna. And then, when I called to Anna, I'm like, hey, this is a while back. I was talking to him. It was like summer in India, right? And he's like, I'm like, dude, what did you do? He's like, yeah, I spent like the whole day at the mall. I'm like, dude, what the hell did you do the whole day at the mall? And he's like, AC kha ke aa gaye. So it is a really nice mall. And there's like, like the whole thing is air conditioned. It's so hot, dude. So he just went there the whole day just to like sit there.
Bro, and imagine that. Imagine you, like, that's what Jio is, right? With Jio and with with cheaper smartphones, suddenly everybody now has access to this super fun, super engaging place. that they didn't have access to before. It was very expensive, let's just say, to have that same level of access, buying internet, buying a good smartphone. And now that everybody has access, of course, there's a rise in entertainment, right? YouTube is growing at a crazy rate. We have TikTok and stuff. But these people increasingly are also now looking at, what else can I do with this? Work, productivity, finding people, getting things done, just achieving my goals.
Making money.
Making money, dude. Of course, definitely.
If you enjoyed that video, please, of course, let us know. Leave a like and comment. But besides that, this is what we do for a living. We help creatives and designers level up in their careers. If you'd like to join one of our live programs, we do them a few times a year. Check out the link in the description. It's 10kdesigners.com.